The cellar was dark, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and salt carried in from the sea. The only light was a single green diode blinking on the ancient dehumidifier, its low hum a counterpoint to the rhythmic slosh of the washing machine. I could feel his warm breath on my neck, a stark contrast to the cold air chilling my skin. My hands gripped the edge of the machine, the enameled metal biting into my palms as his chest pressed into my back. Rowan's strong hand held my waist, a grounding force, while his other moved with agonizing slowness up under my sweater, his touch a brand against my skin. It was a touch that felt years in the making. I could barely breathe. My legs went weak as he moved closer, the slow, deliberate pressure of his body against mine, both a question and an answer. I had to plant both hands on the shuddering lid of the washer just to keep myself upright. My sweater was pushed up to my chest. His skin was so warm against the chill of mine. My breath fogged the dark plastic of the machine's control panel as I bit my lip, the sharp pain of fleeting anchor in a dizzying sea. The old house above us was silent, but the tension between us was a physical thing, louder than the northeasters that battered our coastline. I didn't tell him to stop. I couldn't have spoken if my life depended on it. When he moved just a little, a subtle shift that made everything feel exquisitely worse and impossibly better, I pushed back against him. This was never supposed to happen. But here we were. I never planned any of this, but I stopped making plans a long time ago. He is my husband's oldest friend. Welcome to the heartstrings and scars, where we unravel the untold stories of love, betrayal, and the life-changing lessons they leave behind. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. We promise you stories that will make you reflect, question, and maybe even see yourself in the characters we share. They've been like brothers since they were boys, running wild on these same rocky shores. I've been part of their story for 15 years. Clam bakes on the beach, 4th of July bonfires, surprise visits that were just part of the fabric of our lives. Rowan helped us move into this very house, its cedar shingles weathered gray by a century of salt and wind. He helped Daniel paint our bedroom upstairs, the one overlooking the bay. When I was sick with pneumonia 2 winters back, it was Rowan who brought me steaming bowls of fish chowder. So how did I end up here? Bent over a washing machine in a damp cellar, choking on a shame so potent I could taste it like brine. I'm 38 years old. I have a home people dream of perched on the edge of the ocean, 2 beautiful children, and a husband, Daniel, who still gives me a perfunctory kiss on the cheek every morning. We look perfect from the outside, as steady and predictable as the tides. But being safe costs you something. It costs you being seen. And I became invisible a very long time ago. I didn't mean to notice the way Rowan would linger after the other guests left. I didn't mean to feel a jolt when he'd help me carry in firewood, his arm brushing mine. It wasn't a conscious flirtation, nothing we orchestrated. It was years of stolen glances that always ended in silence, until that silence grew sharp teeth. That evening started like any other, a small gathering with friends. Daniel drank too much whiskey and went to bed early. Rowan stayed to help me clean. We were laughing, an old folk song playing from my phone on the counter. My hair was a mess, my dress was simple. I turned to hand him a dish towel, but his hand didn't take it. Instead, his fingers closed gently around my wrist. He looked at me with an expression of pained necessity, as if he was fighting a war with himself and losing. And I didn't pull away. The washing machine made a loud, final click. Somewhere upstairs, a floorboard creaked underfoot. I jumped, a spike of pure terror shooting through me, and he clamped both hands on my hips to steady me. We froze like statues carved from salt, his body still flush against mine, both of us trembling. "I should go," I said, my voice a ragged whisper. "I know," he replied, his voice thick, but neither of us moved an inch. We had kept our distance for so long, I'd forgotten we were dancing on the edge of a cliff, until suddenly we weren't dancing anymore. We had fallen right off. He left 5 minutes later. I didn't walk him to the door. I sat on the cold edge of the washing machine, my entire body humming, alive in places that had been numb for years. What do you do when the only person who makes you feel real is the one you can never, ever miss? Because here is the hardest part. I wasn't shocked that it happened. Deep down, a part of me I refused to acknowledge had been waiting for it. And the second hardest part, I don't know if I wanted to stop. That night, after I showered and re-washed the clothes just to be certain his scent was gone, I stood in the upstairs hallway, staring at my bedroom door. Daniel was snoring, a low, familiar rumble. I was still trembling, and I felt no regret at all. If you've ever lived under the same roof with someone and felt utterly alone, you already understand how this happens. The week after the cellar, I moved through my days on autopilot. I dropped the kids at school, bought groceries at the town market, stripped the beds on Thursday. No one noticed that the world had tilted on its axis. No one except him and me. Rowan appeared 2 days later with a new latch for the screen door that had been sticking. He didn't call first. He never had to. Daniel always said Rowan was family. I opened the door, my hands still damp from washing dishes. The morning sun streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. I couldn't look him in the eye. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to support us and join our growing community. We promise you stories that will make you reflect, question, and maybe even see yourself in the characters we share. "Hey, Lena," he said, his voice too quiet, too careful. His eyes searched mine, as if waiting for a slap or a slammed door. I did neither. I just nodded. The latch is still catching. He knelt by the doorframe, while I stood awkwardly by the sink. I should have gone upstairs, given him space, but I was rooted to the spot. I wiped the already clean granite countertop, watching the muscles move in his shoulders under his flannel shirt, listening to the familiar scuff of his work boots on our pine floors. When he stood up, his gaze was direct and serious. "I've been thinking about you," he said, the words low and dangerous. "More than I should." I couldn't answer. My throat was a desert. The old house felt too warm, the air too close. The refrigerator hummed. A gull cried out from the roof of the boathouse. All I could think to whisper was, "Why didn't it feel wrong?" He nodded slowly. "Okay." That should have been the end of it. He could have left. I could have walled him off in my mind. But he didn't leave. He went to check the pipes under the house, just like he always did, moving through our home with an ease that terrified me. That's what was most frightening, how normal he felt here, how much he belonged. Rowan was the one who climbed the ladder to put up our storm shutters, the one who took our bins to the curb when Daniel forgot. He showed up for leaks and loose floorboards and fallen branches. He never asked for anything, never crossed a line, except now. Now, I noticed the way his fingers brushed mine when he passed me a tool. Now, I heard the meaning in the silences between our words. Now, I remembered exactly how his hand felt on my skin, firm and warm and sure of itself, in a place where no one else even saw me anymore. And the worst part is, I wanted more. I have been married for 16 years. I met Daniel when I was 22. We had our children, bought this house, and built a life, one mortgage payment, one sacrifice at a time. And somewhere in all that building, I stopped being a woman to him. I became logistics. I became meals and schedules and laundry. But when Rowan looked at me, truly looked at me, I felt like I was still here. It's not that I don't love Daniel. I do, in the way you love an old, comfortable sweater, familiar, cozy, but worn thin in all the places that used to matter. It had been over a year since he'd held me for no reason at all. So when Rowan reached for me in that dim cellar, it didn't feel like a betrayal. It felt like being found, like someone had finally remembered that underneath the mother and the wife, there was a woman worth wanting. The next night, I stood by the kitchen window, watching the moonlight shatter on the dark, choppy water of the bay. I whispered it into the darkness, to the sound of the wind whistling around the eaves. What am I doing? Because I knew deep in my bones, this was not over. It had just begun.